Hi everyone, Rich Crescenti here with another in our series of videos making music with Melodyne. And today we're going to be talking about some advanced vocal production techniques to add intentionality, to add impact, to add movement and punch, and really just some ways to make your vocal pop and add a little more excitement to it in general. Almost everything we're doing today can be done in Melodyne Assistant or higher. So let's jump in and take a look. This is a song called The Fight by a band Colorform out of New York City. Let's give it a listen. Okay, great. This is an emotional vocal as it is, but I feel like there's a couple places we can do some work to highlight it a little bit and to make it stand out. And so the first thing I want to talk about, when you want to have anything have some movement or have a little more impact, rhythm and timing is a big portion of that. So there's a couple things that I like to do. And the first thing is to set up our background to match our needs and make it a little bit easier. So oftentimes you'll notice right now we're showing quarter notes right here. One of the first things I'll do is come to my time grid settings and set that to a higher number, right? You can set these time grid settings to show more notes or greater subdivisions. And although we may not be dragging exactly to those subdivisions, it's nice to know sometimes how far you are moving something, how far you're stretching something out. Another thing that I really like to do is find an instrument that is really reflective of the rhythm of the song. Right? When you're coming down to making these kind of timing and rhythmic edits or for impact like this, it's really important to think about one of two things, right? You're either trying to reinforce the rhythm of something that's happening in the song, or you're trying to make something stand apart from the rhythm of the rest of the song. And so there's a couple lines right here. I want to show you one on each one of those. But in this case, I need something that's rhythmic, that shows what's happening in the song. So I'm going to come over here. I've put Melodyne on my overhead track. So I'm going to hit these gray blobs right over here. And now we can actually see our overhead track along with our vocal right here. Now, in order to see multiple tracks at once in this multi-track view, you do need Melodyne Studio, but everything else I'm doing today can be done in Melodyne Assistant. And here we see these hits with this, and this phrase right here, let's listen to this phrase, "in the dark." Okay, now it's rhythmic for the first two words and then dark, she kind of stretches it out a little bit more, right? And you can see this sibilant information right here. That's the K on dark, and it's coming a little bit later right there. You can kind of gauge how long this word is and how long this word is. And this one's a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is take this right here, come over here to my timing tool and shrink this a little bit, right? And what I'm doing right there is just sort of making it so that I make the K happen right in line with the rhythm. All right, let's listen again to our original. I'm going to hit the bypass button up here. Compare is for bypassing. And then here's how I change this. Right? That's punchier. That's more rhythmic. It has a little more impact on that right there. So I like doing those kind of things for rhythmic phrases. Now, the phrase after this, let's listen to this one. Okay, she says it's the fight. The name of this song is The Fight. So this is a very important line right here. And sometimes when I really want a word to have a little more impact, I like to stretch it out, make it a little bit longer. Right, this word fight right here. So I'm going to select this and do the opposite. I'm going to pull this one out a little bit right here. Now you'll notice the sibilant information shrunk behind that. So what I'm going to do right here is using the command key, I'm going to also select that. And now when I stretch this out a little bit, I'm not just stretching out the tonal portion, I'm stretching out where this sibilant information is as well. So let's give our original a listen right here and check it out. It's the fight. Okay, and here's how I change this. It's the fight. Right, that just hangs on a little bit more right there on that word fight. I like that a lot because that extra hang of it gives it a little more yearning, a little more impact, a little more time, and makes it stand apart from the rhythm of the song a little bit. Okay, great. Now, when it comes to other things that I really like to do to make something stand out in the song, to make something jump in the way that I want, is intentionality. When it comes to pitch, when it comes to singing, I think intentionality is really important. And so This is a minor one, but right here you can see on this first word of this phrase right here. Let's listen to this. Okay, she says we're right there, and this is a case where she swings up a little bit. This isn't too bad, so this isn't a major one right there, but she still swings up above the note and then back down into it. And I think intentionality is really important. So in a case like this, I might come over to my pitch tool, and then you'll notice if I come to the note before that one, my pitch tool becomes this sort of cantilevered X. That is my pitch transition tool. So now what I can do is grab that and slow down that transition, right? So now instead of jumping up and then swinging back down, she swings basically right up into the note right there. Let's hear that. It's subtle. Here's our original again. You can hear her really swing up right there. And then here's how we've changed this. So much more direct, so much more intentional in what she's singing right there. I think it's really important to understand how that intentionality implies a purpose and a meaningfulness that's really important. Now, sometimes we have the opposite issue, where instead of someone swinging up too far and swinging back down, kind of an overshoot, we have them take a little too long to get somewhere, like this phrase right here. You may notice from these lines that she swings up, but it takes her a little while to get there, and then she starts to swing down a little bit early right there. And I want to add some intentionality to that. So in this case, I'm going to use a different tool. If you come over here to your tools, you'll notice in the time that there is a time handle tool. Now the time handle tool is really nice because what that allows us to do is shrink or stretch the actual pitched information within a blob. And what's really nice is that also allows us to pin certain information so that it can't be stretched. Let me give you an example of that right here. If I take this word and just drop in a time handle, I can now shrink on one side and stretch on the other. However, if I were to drop in another time handle right here, maybe I don't want the end of this word to be affected. I can use that second time handle to pin it. So now moving this one will actually shrink or stretch everything before that, but you'll notice the tail end of that word is not moving at all. All right, so let me undo both of those a little bit, and let me show you how I might do that over here. I'm going to drop in a time handle tool right here and bring this one just starting it just a little bit earlier. And even right here, I might even bring that one and just start that a little bit later. Let's come over here for a second, make sure I'm on the right tool, and grab my time handle tool and just move this one over a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one right here, just to give that a little bit more. And even at the end right here, right, on this word on fight, she starts to drift off right there at the end. So that's another place where I might drop in a time handle and then just stretch that out a little bit. Just have her hold that note a little bit longer before she drops off. All right. So let's give this a listen, right? Here is our original. All right, and then let's hear how we change this right here. And I want you to notice the intentionality, especially on this word and this word at the end. Yeah, I kind of like how that hangs out a little bit right there. In retrospect, I might take this one and move it back just a little bit from where it was to keep a little more of the natural sound, but definitely a more intentional and purposeful singing and selection of notes right there that I think really helps. Now, another tool that I like to use is when there is a drop off in a word, like this one right here. This is the word equals, right? And I want to listen to this real quick. Let's hear this. That word equals, she kind of swallows that at the end right there. So there's a technique that I like to use sometimes, which is I will come to this word and we can see where it's very consistent in level and then where it drops off. So in this case, something I like to do is separate it at the point where it drops off. Sometimes it's kind of hard to know where to separate it. So this is a case where I might come over here to the wrench to note assignment mode. And then by coming over here to my note separation tool, I've already moved my potential note separations. That's these triangles right here, to the maximum number. And here I can see one where it starts to drop off a little bit. Right here is a separation of right where that level starts to change. So I'm just going to come over here to make this tool and double click and add in that separation right there. Let's move back to the edit mode right here, and you'll notice these blobs moved, but I want to remind you, right, the line is the actual pitch at any given instant in the song. The blob is more or less Melodyne's analysis of what that overall note is. So while you did see the blobs move, the pitch itself didn't change. By separating those notes, all we did was reanalyze each piece. No other changes were made. Now, I still, because of that, may come over here to my pitch tool, and I might want to put those at the center right there. But now what I want to do is come over here to my amplitude tool, and I'm going to overshoot this a lot. I'm going to make this very, very loud, because then what I can do is come to the blob before that, and you'll see we get another one of those cantilevered X's. In this case, this is my amplitude transition tool. Before I showed you the pitch transition, this is the amplitude transition. And what it allows me to do is slow down the transition from one amplitude to the next. Now I can come back to the second blob and bring it back down to a more consistent level. So now what we get is a blob that is consistent in level all the way across instead of dropping off. Let's hear how that changes that at the end, right? Here's our original. And then here's how I changed that. Listen to that word equals, how it holds out a little more consistent. Yeah, that's nice. I think I may actually even bring that down a little bit more in level right there just to even it out a little bit. Let's hear that again. Very nice. I like that, right? By holding out that note and making it more consistent at the end, it just has a little more impact. It doesn't get swallowed. And now you have some more flexibility when it comes to compression for tone and creative purposes, and less for level correction right there. Okay, so one of my last ones for today that I want to talk about is how I like to use the Formant tool. We've talked about this before for correction purposes, but this is also very, very useful for creative purposes as well. For example, let's hear this original phrase right here at the beginning. Okay, I like that. That's nice. However, I want it to be a little more airy, a little more delicate. And this is where the Formant tool becomes very useful. You can right-click and select your Formant tool right here. Now remember, the Formant tool is the unpitched portion of that vocal, right? It's the shape of your mouth. It's why you sound different in the morning than in the evening. And in cases like this, by raising it, we can add some air and some delicacy to this. So let me show you this right here. I'm going to select this first 4 words right here, which are very airy. She says it's all equals, but her delivery is airy, and so I want to accentuate that a little bit. So I'm going to take our Formant and raise that up a little bit right there. Right? Let's hear how that sounds. That's nice. I'm going to undo that and kind of show you the difference. Here's the original. And let me show you that again. Here it is with the change. I might even bring this up a little bit more. Select all of these and make sure to select these at the beginning as well. And just bring that up a little bit from there. Let's hear it again. Yeah, I like that. That's airy. That's nice and delicate. Now, if we come over here on the end, we can look at the other side of this. Listen to this final phrases right here. Now with those right there, I might want to add some solidity, some weight to those. So I'm going to select all of these right here and do the opposite. I'm going to take my Formant and bring it down a little bit, right? Let's hear that again. Yeah, that adds a little heft, a little solidity to that right there. This has added a lot to the vocal. So be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment. Hope you've enjoyed this today. Thanks.